Right now, a startup that builds AI chips is worth $21 billion.
Yeah, 21 billion. It's staggering.
Right. Yet the recent college grads who are applying to work at these places, they're facing the highest unemployment rates in the entire country.
It's a massive contradiction.
Exactly. I mean, the future we were promised was supposed to be frictionless, you
Yeah.
know? Data moving seamlessly, automation just making life perfectly smooth.
Right. But the stack of sources you brought us today paints a very different picture.
It really does. It's a picture of a world colliding with incredibly rigid reality. Welcome to this custom-tailored deep dive into your sources.
We're so glad you're with us.
Yeah, if you're listening to this, you're someone who wants to cut through the daily noise, right? Well, you want to actually understand the underlying mechanics of what is happening around you.
And there is a lot happening. We are looking at a world experiencing immense friction. The digital and AI boom is basically crashing headfirst into the realities of global geopolitics, physical infrastructure, and even human biology.
Spot on. So our mission today is to connect those dots for you. We're taking you from the hyper-inflated AI markets of Silicon Valley, straight through the shipping lanes of the Middle East, and all the way down to the immune cells in your own brain.
It's a big journey.
Let's jump right in. Let's start with the sheer scale of this AI economy, because the capital flowing into this space isn't just large, it's basically restructuring the entire market.
Restructuring is the perfect word for it, actually. Right. Especially when you look at the hardware side. You mentioned that $21 billion valuation earlier.
Right.
So that is for a startup called Etched, and they specifically build inference chips.
Mm-hmm.
And they're growing so fast, they're actively recruiting engineers right out of NVIDIA.
Let's define that for a second, because we hear a lot about training AI models, right?
Right.
But what exactly makes an inference chip worth a $21 billion price tag?
Right. So think of training an AI like sending someone to medical school for a decade. It takes massive amounts of data and computing power. But inference is what happens when that doctor is actually in the emergency room making real-time diagnoses. It's the doing phase. Etched is building chips exclusively optimized for that real-time execution.
Oh, wow. And we are seeing that exact same fever pitch over in the Asian markets, too. I mean, Unitree Robotics is set to IPO on the STAR market.
Which is basically China's version of the NASDAQ.
Right. Heavily focused on science and tech. And their IPO was just reported as being 8,000 times oversubscribed.
That is just, I mean, an 8,000 times oversubscription means that for every single available share, there is this massive tidal wave of money fighting to buy 8,000 of them. The market is desperate for AI and robotics.
Desperate. And it's not just hype anymore, which is the wild part. The technology is actually, it's eating its own tail in a way. Look at Cadence. They reported their AI agents have accelerated their internal workflows so much that it boosted their electronic design automation revenue by 18%.
Yeah, and electronic design automation, or EDA, that's the software used to create new microchips. So AI systems are blueprinting the next generation in physical chips.
Which will then run more advanced AI.
Exactly. It's an accelerating feedback loop. And it's moving into the physical world, too. Pony.ai just expanded its overseas robotaxi pipeline to over 4,000 vehicles.
Right. And it's getting geopolitical. The UK government is actively studying the economic risk of losing access to Anthropic's Fable 5 frontier model. They treat it like a critical national resource.
Because it is. Data is the new oil. Look at the media space. ByteDance and the MPA just agreed on an AI copyright framework for Seedance and Seedream. And Reach Capital closed a $265 million fund specifically for AI-driven edtech and health tools.
Wait, but it's not all endless growth, right? I mean, Baidu just missed their Q2 revenue estimates because ad declines outweighed their AI cloud growth.
True, the transition is messy. But the demand for raw data is insane. I mean, Google just won a $10 million bid for Spirit Airlines' de-identified internal data.
Yeah, when I read that in the sources, I was genuinely confused. Spirit is bankrupt. Why on earth is Google paying $10 million for their data?
Because AI models are starving for complex, messy reality. Airline logistics data is basically a massive record of chaos. You've got weather delays, crew timeouts, broken maintenance schedules.
Oh, so it's a giant puzzle of unpredictable scenarios.
Exactly. Training complex AI to solve real-world problems requires feeding it the most chaotic situations possible. It's literal digital gold.
Wow. Which brings us to the human cost of all this, efficiency. According to the New York Fed, the unemployment rate among recent college graduates is now higher than the broader labor market.
Yeah, and they specifically cite AI as a major factor.
The way I view this mechanism, it's like we're building a massive multi-billion-dollar superhighway, but actively closing the on-ramps for new drivers.
That is exactly what's happening. The entry-level jobs, basic coding, copywriting, junior data analysis, those were the on-ramps. That's where humans learn their trade.
So let me ask you this. With companies paying $10 million for bankrupt airline data and valuing startups at $21 billion, are we basically pricing human potential like these recent college grads completely out of the market?
It's a huge structural risk. The market is paying a premium for computing power, but severely discounting unproven human labor. If you don't give junior talent space to learn, where do your senior engineers come from in 10 years?
Right.
You eventually face a huge deficit of people who can actually manage these AI systems.
And that transition from the workplace to our personal lives is really where the younger generation is getting caught in the crossfire.
Yeah, we are looking at two totally different strategies for how tech interacts with youth right now. On one side, Meta is facing a massive 29-state landmark trial over claims that their platforms actively harm young users.
Well, at the exact same time, OpenAI just launched ChatGPT for teens. They're leaning directly into that demographic, though, with new guardrails, parental controls, and a study mode.
It really highlights a deep societal contradiction. We are terrified of what digital immersion does to young brains. But we also know that fluency in AI is going to be the absolute baseline requirement for their economic survival.
And the immersion is only getting deeper. Digging into the sources, code in a recent macOS release reveals that unreleased Apple AirPods will feature built-in cameras.
Yeah, for what they're calling ambient visual context.
Meaning my earbuds are going to watch what I'm doing.
Basically, the cameras will constantly process your physical environment, so your AI assistant can literally see what you are looking at in real time, giving you digital context without you ever looking at a screen.
Which sounds incredibly convenient, right? Until you look at the cybersecurity reality. The more ambient data we collect, the larger the attack surface. A hacker is claiming right now to be selling 3.6 million stolen Azure Enterprise records.
And human error isn't even the biggest threat anymore. A new Wiz report found that GitHub's Copilot Autofix, which is an AI tool designed to automatically fix code bugs, actually introduced a shell injection flaw into a project.
Wait. Let's explain what that flaw actually means in practice.
Basically, a shell injection flaw is leaving a backdoor wide open. It allows a hacker to type direct commands right into the central server. So the AI assistant hallucinated a shortcut and accidentally created a catastrophic security hole.
Okay, let's pause and just look at the paradox here. We have OpenAI's president, Greg Brockman, urgently pushing a 10-point automated cyber defense strategy because AI attacks are accelerating so fast.
Right.
But if an AI coding assistant is accidentally introducing shell injection flaws in the first place, how can we trust an automated cyber defense to keep our data safe? Aren't these tech giants just trying to sell us the Band-Aid for the broken dam they built?
That is the ultimate paradox of the AI era. They build the complexity that creates the vulnerabilities and then sell us the automated tools required to secure them. Brockman is right that humans are too slow to fight algorithmic attacks, but your skepticism is completely valid.
Right. Because if the defense AI makes a single bad assumption at light speed, the cascading failure is devastating.
Devastating, absolutely.
And cascading failures are exactly what we are seeing when we shift from digital supply chains to the physical map. Because while the tech world is accelerating, the geopolitical world is fracturing.
Creating massive bottlenecks. And just to be very clear to the listener before we dive into these sources, we are simply conveying the events and ideas from the material provided. We are not endorsing any viewpoints or taking any political sides here.
Exactly, just reporting the facts on the ground. So looking at the Middle East, the tension is immense. The diplomatic memorandum of understanding between the U.S. and Iran has expired.
And following that expiration, Iran has threatened a new offensive and actually seized a UAE-owned tanker in the Strait of Hormuz, though there is diplomatic attention currently on an Iran-Oman framework.
And further down, Yemen's Houthis claimed a strike on a Saudi-linked vessel in the Red Sea. We're also seeing intense diplomacy. Jared Kushner met with Prime Minister Netanyahu to advance a 15-point U.S.-backed Gaza plan.
Meanwhile, the internal and external political pressures are severe. Far-right Israeli minister Itamar Ben-Gvir faced heavy criticism for demanding specific kill quotas in Gaza.
The UN is also warning of surging violence amid Israeli strikes in southern Lebanon, and Netanyahu faced backlash for a post comparing NYC Mayor Mamdani to authoritarian leaders.
It's an incredibly volatile situation, and this geopolitical friction is actually grinding down our physical military infrastructure too.
Oh, absolutely. The Navy had to disclose that the USS Benfold was adrift for 4 days in the South China Sea. An engineering failure left a multi-billion-dollar warship dead in the water, limiting food, water, and AC for the crew.
It shows that strategic military power is entirely bound by the physical constraints of mechanical engineering. Domestically, President Trump just dismissed reports of poor conditions on the USS Abraham Lincoln as fake news.
So, walk us through the domino effect here. How does an expired diplomatic memo in the Middle East directly translate to the listener paying $4.06 at the gas pump and watching their stock portfolio slip, because those are the numbers we're seeing?
It's a direct chain of causality. So the Strait of Hormuz handles roughly 20% of the world's oil supply. When that U.S.-Iran memo expires, the geopolitical guardrails come off.
Right.
So when a tanker is seized, or like we saw in another source, a Russian tanker spills oil along Oman's coast, buyers panic. They bid up the price of crude oil to guarantee supply.
And that's why global crude rose above $90 a barrel.
Exactly. That $90 barrel moves through the refineries, and weeks later, it hits your local gas station at that record, $4.06.
And the stock market. The S&P 500 and the Dow both slipped.
Right, because high energy costs squeeze corporate profit margins. It drives up inflation. When inflation rises, the Fed keeps interest rates high to cool the economy, which pushes up Treasury yields. So investors pull money out of risky stocks into safe bonds, equities drop, and your portfolio takes a hit.
Wow, it's completely interconnected. The global friction creates domestic log jams. And you really see that log jam when you look at the American legal system right now.
It is overflowing. And again, maintaining strict neutrality here on the legal items, but the sheer volume of culture being processed through the courts is staggering. Opening statements just began in Las Vegas for Dwayne Kefty Davis in the 1996 murder of Tupac Shakur.
Almost 30 years ago.
Right. In New York, a judge delayed Luigi Mangione's murder trial. The Supreme Court declined to revisit the E. Jean Carroll verdict against Donald Trump.
Down in Texas, a federal judge loosened restrictions on firearm suppressors. And at its border, Customs and Border Protection had to pause border wall construction at Big Bend National Park. Plus, Florida primary elections are underway. From a 1996 hip-hop murder to Supreme Court decisions on former presidents, it literally feels like the justice system is trying to clear a 30-year backlog all at once.
Yeah, it's a slow, retrospective engine trying to govern a culture moving at digital speed. And you see that same grinding friction in corporate maneuvering. Paramount is seeking a $1.88 billion bond over delays in its merger with Warner Bros. Discovery.
Though Warner Bros. Discovery did report a 10% jump in streaming revenue, which is significant. And Paramount Plus is shifting toward female-led dramas and franchises.
Globally, the BBC plans to spotlight its global franchise strategy at MIP Saam Cannes. These legacy broadcasters are frantically trying to consolidate assets to survive the internet era.
While the retail sector is giving us a reality check on the physical consumer, Home Depot beat Q2 earnings, posting $4.73 a share on $47.3 billion in revenue. And we've got Target, Walmart, and the FOMC minutes coming up Wednesday and Thursday.
Which perfectly transitions us to the most inescapable reality we face, our physical environment and biology. Right now, that environment is pushing back hard.
Extremely hard. The National Weather Service is predicting a long-duration extreme heat event across the southern U.S. We're talking 110 to 113 degree indices on the Georgia and South Carolina coast, 98 degree highs in Florida, and 105 in SoCal valleys.
While the northern plains face isolated storms, and the Northeast remains quiet. But this extreme heat is altering public health. The CDC just warned of a surge in mosquito-borne arbovirus infections across multiple regions.
And at the same time, we're seeing a spike in alternative substance abuse. Poison center cases linked to kratom surged from just 19 in 2010 to over 1,200 recently. People are looking for biological coping mechanisms.
Yet our demand for physical output sports is breaking records. NFL preseason week 2 is happening with Vegas and Houston. Scottie Scheffler locked the FedEx #1 seed with his 21st PGA win. MLB Tuesday action is on.
The Little League World Series is opening in PA, and the WNBA's booming games are happening, and 2 former NBA players actually declared for the WNBA draft.
The business of sports reflects this too. The Lakers sale process continues, and Mark Walter is in talks to sell his Chelsea FC stake.
But amidst all this rigid physical reality, your sources delivered an incredible biological aha moment. Two new studies show human biology is astonishingly adaptable.
Yes. First, Stanford researchers found that large numbers of immune cells actively enter the aging brain. For decades, we assumed that the blood-brain barrier kept them out.
Right.
Finding that they cross that barrier totally challenges long-held assumptions about how the brain fights cognitive decline.
And the second study proves that fear of failure patterns, the anxieties rooted in childhood criticism, are actually highly flexible and changeable in young adults. Consider the contrast here. Our physical environment, extreme heat, arboviruses, it's incredibly rigid and unforgiving right now. But our own brains, they're proving to be surprisingly adaptable, capable of literally rewriting the fears instilled in us during childhood.
It's beautiful, honestly. We underestimate the neuroplasticity we already possess.
So bringing it all together, we've gone on a massive journey today. From $21 billion AI inference chips and replaced graduates, through geopolitical bottlenecks choking off oil, down to the incredible flexibility of the human mind. We are living through a very high-friction transition period.
We absolutely are. The systems of the 20th century are violently grinding against the velocity of the 21st.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you to mull over. If our biology allows us to rewrite our deepest-rooted fears of failure, and our technology allows us to completely rewrite our economy, what happens when we finally figure out how to apply that human adaptability to our seemingly intractable global conflicts? Are we just waiting for our physical world to catch up to our mental flexibility?
That is the defining question we need to answer.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. The sources you shared were incredible. Keep questioning the consensus, keep digging into those sources, and we'll be right here waiting to unpack the next stack with you.